This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
Welcome into the Triple Option. I'm full, chest hairing, I just noticed.
The 70s are back.
Yeah, here. I better fix that up. I got to button that up.
Hey, I mean, not for free.
Yeah, I know, right? You know what? You super chat. We'll pop the shirt a little bit.
Right, no, yeah.
We're not, I know this is not an OnlyFans channel, but
$15 might take the dogs out. Who knows?
Yeah, exactly. We're not messing around here. There are a couple things. Whoa! There, the volume was on my laptop. See, it's a great start today. It's a great start today.
It's fine.
Paul Royden, Garrett is here, and the Big 12 schedule has been released.
It sure did.
We have that. I don't know if you've seen this because it just came down the last hour. Florida State and the ACC have amended their lawsuits against each other.
Oh, good.
It's getting super catty. It is getting super catty. Florida State has now accused the ACC of self-dealing interests with former Commissioner John Swofford.
And the ACC rebuttal, nuh-uh.
Yes. So
no.
Yeah, it's going to get really interesting. Basically, it revolves around former Commissioner John Swofford doing a deal for the second and third tier rights with Raycom, where his son was the director of programming or something like that. He was a high up there. So
I can say this because, Raycom has had some interesting deals go down over the past 10 years.
Yes. So
just look that up.
I kind of kept it was always kind of out there, in the internet mentions of, there were some people who felt during the time that Raycom got a sweetheart deal from the ACC because of John Swofford and his son, and that's why he did it. But it was just one of those things where well, this happens, backroom handshake, deals like this happen all the time. So nobody really said anything of it. And then now it's one of those things Florida State probably did not care when the deal was made. It was probably well, this is a little bit shady, but whatever. They
money
signed it.
Pocket,
it's what the deal's done. ESPN kind of strong-armed them into, hey, you want the ACC network, here's the terms. And then the whole conference is well, we got to have a channel because otherwise, how will people watch us?
Right. I don't know. Maybe signing with a regional television network isn't the best.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So their second and third tier rights went to Raycom. And now it's one of those things that at the time you're whatever. But then when you want to get out of this ridiculously long contract, you're you know what? You know what pissed us off in 2016? Raycom did. We've always been mad about it. But now we're bringing
it in writing.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of how it feels to me because, you all agreed to the deal. And look, this, as everybody who's watching this regularly knows, I'm an alum. I want what's best for the school. I want them, especially football-wise, which is, one of the few things in life that brings me true joy. I've built my whole personality around it. I can't just give up now.
Right. Too far in. Like a Manchurian candidate, usually.
Exactly. So I want it's good, but I also in this job, you get to the point of okay, what's really going on here? Or did you care about this in 2016 and not say anything, or did you not care and now that it's kind of worked out for you, you're saying something? Because again, the landscape changed and it changed so rapidly, and then you're okay, well, how do we make sure that we are ultra competitive in this and financially? And then at the end of it, it's we don't know because we signed this ridiculously long contract because we thought that was in the best interest of us. And then turns out the contract is long for the ACC. It's not long, however, for ESPN. They can just decide in 2027, the ACC network, no one watches it,
Right.
Unless somebody's, unless there's a football game on that people want to watch.
But those aren't ever very few are thrown on to the ACC network.
No, the ones that they get, they'll get Florida State and Clemson twice a year. each, but they don't have Florida State versus Clemson.
I mean, it's like Wake Forest, Louisville. Like, no offense to those teams.
Yeah, but it's it's games that like people will watch them if you put Wake Forest, Louisville on at the same time on a network, it would get a bigger number just because it's on the network. But it's not going to if you put Wake Forest, Louisville up against Bama versus even Kentucky, like a school that's not even like a huge rival of them for football. It's Bama versus Kentucky still going to do better. So like. What are we talking about here? So like it's weird that you would like have these objections and then just be sitting on them. But I say sitting on them, the entire administration at Florida State has changed top to bottom. So I'm sure the new people are like, well, that was dumb. That was dumb. Shouldn't have done this. Shouldn't have done that. This isn't working. It's
a weird thing in business that you probably more so than me, but like I don't know if anybody can tell watching the stream. I'm not a businessman, but like I do find it interesting that like when things change and the landscape changes on a deal, how quickly people will backtrack on whatever it is. It's all best interest stuff. It's not we're not breaking any ground here by saying that Florida State wants out of a deal that the new administration feels like was bad and wrong by the last administration. But it is funny to me just oh well, things are different now.
Yeah, let's change it, right?
Yeah.
Let's change this, let's do something different. Like Florida State, the entity, signed this agreement. Like you can't just be like, well, we don't like it now. Like, well, that's not really how these things work.
Right.
So best of luck to them, and more power to it if you can figure it out. But this stuff is the amended law, like, and then the ACC amended theirs against Florida State, saying like, well, that's not really here, and they've broken the law because they have even challenging this in court is a violation of the agreement. Which here's the deal: if challenging in a court is a violation of the agreement, and you could kick them out for it, that's what they want. Like, so.
Oh, no.
But they
please
kick them out with
don't take us to court.
Yeah.
That would be terrible.
Yeah.
We would hate to go to another conference because of this.
But do you know what this means is we're not going to get a trial of evidence and things put in because each side is going to have something that like, oh yeah, you think that's shady? Boom. It's going to be like a game of Uno, just like back and forth.
Reverse. Double reverse.
Draw 5, and you're like, oh, and then that's how it's going to be. So they don't want that. So eventually they'll be like, all right, what are we talking here?
This is one of those classic settle out of court that you don't ever get to see. The American cinema system has made it to where we see the American court system as somebody standing up and being like, I object. And normally it's just in a back room being like, all right, well, how much money do we have to give you to like go away, please?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's do that. Yeah. We want that because we want, every trial
out on the table.
Yeah. We want every trial to be an episode of Ally McBeal. Like that's what we want.
That's a reference.
Or the I'm trying to think of another one. The Practice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Firm.
The Firm. That was The Firm. The Firm. He was never actually. I don't think there's a courtroom scene in The Firm.
Not in the movie. I don't think. No.
Yeah. Not in the movie. There's not a courtroom scene.
He just runs a lot.
Yeah.
For a lawyer, suits. It's the most running I've ever seen a lawyer do.
Jumps out of a window onto a cotton truck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Lots of stuff.
Go watch The Firm, folks. Good movie. Anyway.
Yeah, it is. It's quite good. Sidney Pollack directed it.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So, you would think like it's kind of a weird movie for Sidney Pollack to have.
Well, didn't
here's a novel.
Coppola direct? He directed The Rainmaker.
Yeah, which is I think the best one of the John Grisham movies.
Really?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah.
It's very funny.
I prefer The Firm. This has been John Grisham hour.
Yeah.
People in Ole Miss are really
here's
loving this one.
I'll say it's Rainmaker, Firm, Pelican Brief. No. Rainmaker, Firm, Time to Kill.
Time to Kill.
Pelican Brief.
Wow, you're putting Denzel that low. That's interesting.
It's just not. I mean, it's a fine movie, but
Time to Kill has some questionable morals. But man, does McConaughey look really good in that film?
Oh well, I mean, that's what Yes, I think they deserve to die, and I hope they burn in hell. Heck of a movie. Sam Jackson in a powerhouse in that one.
As far as sweaty lawyers go, he looks the best.
Well, Sam's the
Sam's the guy on trial. I'm talking about McConaughey.
Well, yeah, they're sweating in the courthouse. Kiefer Sutherland's there just being evil. Which is kind of his, that's what his deal was for a while before Jack Bauer.
Just be menacing.
Just be menacing. Lost Boys.
Somewhere in the background.
Few Good Men, Time to Kill, menacing.
Funny story about the Lost Boys, and I know we're just not talking about football now, but funny story about my mom. I mean, of course, of any movie that you saw in the 80s, and I'm sure, if I ever had kids, I'll do it with some movie like The Conjuring or something where you don't remember how scary it actually is. Mm-hmm. She was like, oh, The Lost Boys, this is an 80s movie. You can watch it. It was one of those uncut ones on AMC or something like that. And we sat down and watched the entire thing. I didn't sleep for a month. I swear to God, I didn't sleep for a month. And she was just like, what's wrong with you? And I'm just dragging. I was like, vampires are in my room. I just didn't
Did you not want to eat Chinese food?
Yeah.
No, all those things. Have you ever seen The Lost Boys,
All
Garrett?
the deer mounts in our house looked terrifying.
Yeah, The Lost Boys. A very, the most 80s vampire movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're all wearing leather jackets and have mullets.
Yeah.
But yet they're scary. I don't know.
Yeah. It's different. It's different.
Do you want to talk?
Corey Haim and Corey Feldman. That was their little thing. But anyway, let's talk about the Big 12 schedule.
Let's do it.
Let's do that. Let's transition to that.
Very normal transition.
It is very normal transition from the Lost Boys into that. But looking at this, guys, Garrett, it is not, and I know that you spent some time on the Bearcast just a little bit ago, them going through it. We don't know what the new Big 12 is going to be, but I wouldn't say, and this is not a knock on the Big 12, it's just I don't see anybody that has a hammer of a schedule. It's kind of very balanced across the board. I don't see anybody, poor. I know this is maybe one of the first times I'll say this and last in my life, but the poor Florida Gators have, the wood chipper schedule that's the worst ever, and their coach is on the hot seat. I'm sure he's going in look, guys, I don't know how much better can I make us 9 wins better with this schedule? Who could? Nick Saban would be furious. If you gave Nick Saban that schedule, he would have retired 10 years ago.
Yeah.
This is I'm not even doing this. Thank you. I'm not even doing this. No. So anyway, but I think it's very balanced, don't you think, Garrett?
No, it really is. I mean, I think looking at it right here, what stands out to me is Colorado's. I think Colorado's can kind of be tricky because you go on the road to Nebraska, which is traditionally a rivalry game that I know they met last year, and then you got to go to Colorado State, who completely got in your head and hurt Travis Hunter. Mm-hmm. And then you host Baylor for the first Big 12 game, and then you go on the road again to UCF right after that. So that's one where, depending on how they handle the road, the Buffs could kind of find themselves in trouble. And that's one from a Baylor perspective where if you handle your business early, you can kind of sneak one out in Boulder. I think West Virginia, we knew last year, right? This is similar to what they did last year. They get Penn State and you go to Pitt. I think they have a better chance of standing up against Penn State this year. And then you start off with Kansas. Those are three pretty, or try to say 2.5, depending on what you get with Pitt and Narduzzi there. They're kind of tough games to start off. But those are really the ones that really jump out to me early on. But there's nothing that's just daunting that anybody has on their schedule.
U of H has. I kind of missed it earlier when we were talking about it off mic. U of H has to go. UNLV, they get them at home. 9-5 last year, a sneaky competitive team. I don't know what they're returning though, but then they have to go on the road to Oklahoma, and then they have in Rice, who made a bowl game last year
and who beat them last year.
Yeah, and Rice all of a sudden is no slouch. They're not good, but they made a bowl game and they'll punch you in the mouth every time. That coach has them playing way above their station, I think, and playing really hard too. So U of H could be 1-2 going into conference play. But other than that, there's not great. Texas Tech getting Washington State maybe on a down year. Baylor has to play Utah in what is now a non-conference game, which is really weird. So that kind of doesn't work. That's really weird for both of them. And then Penn State for West Virginia, I think, are some of the really hard. I mean, is Pittsburgh going to be better? Nebraska, Iowa versus Iowa State.
Yeah.
Tulane for Kansas State, but
Yeah, I mean, Tulane beat them the last time they played.
but they all have a new head coach, a new quarterback.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's different. I'll say I think the toughest, you pointed out West Virginia, the toughest, like, mid-season stretch to me, and they have it's Kansas before the bye, at Stillwater, home for Iowa State, home for Kansas State, and at Arizona. Those teams have the potential to be probably the toughest, like straight through, like 5-game stretch of maybe the whole Big 12 schedule. That because you're talking about, Kansas and Lance Leipold is going to be a good team. Jalen Daniels, hopefully healthy and back. Oklahoma State's Gundy, and they're bringing back Ollie Gordon. Iowa State's bringing back everybody. Kansas State's got Avery Johnson, and they're bringing back a lot. And then Arizona's got Fafita and McMillan coming back in the fold. So that's, maybe like, I'll tell you two out of the best quarterbacks in the conference right there, all in the same stretch, and some of the best, maybe the tougher. I asked this question, and we can go into it a little bit more in the next segment, but when you talk about a head coaching stretch, you're playing Lance Leipold, Mike Gundy, Matt Campbell, Chris Kleiman back to back to back before you get to Brent Brennan, who we'll see, but that's 4 coaches in a row. That's pretty tough.
I know one thing I've noticed, and this is just something I was going to look for personally as people we cover Baylor, is they don't have any Thursday or Friday night games this year, which I think is kind of intriguing. It's something to take note of. Texas Tech as well, the Red Raiders don't have any, and I'm just kind of looking at that because there was so much talk about high school games in Texas and playing the Big 12 having to do that. Houston is going to have a couple, and it's looking like TCU will as well. So I'm interested to see how that works with rotating these teams and how they play Thursday, Friday night games going forward. But that was something I did take note of, that Baylor will not be playing a Thursday or Friday night game this season.
The first time in a long time.
Yeah. That's what happens when the last two don't get your ratings.
Exactly.
But that's probably what happened there. But yeah, no, this is an interesting stretch. I think that for the first year teams, it kind of works out. Like Arizona's got it kind of tough though. Like just conference schedule wise, at K-State on a Friday, a bye week at Utah, Tech at BYU, Colorado, West Virginia, UCF. Like those are all, except for BYU. Well, I don't know. I say that, but those are all going to be tough spots. Colorado obviously is the wildest of the wild cards in this because
are they good or are they?
Yeah, because
awful again.
We know that they have pieces that, if you can block for them and tackle for them, are going to make plays. But are you going to do that? I would say that they're going to be better at that. How much better, though, remains to be seen. Because, look, the offensive line, I described it yesterday as 9 a.m. turnstiles at Disney World. Like, if you've ever been
going through.
Just people like when the kids run in because they I got to get to the Millennium Falcon first.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is. Like, that was how it was. Now, this, can they be better? We'll see. But, yeah, I don't like.
The Colorado State game is going to be really telling because I feel like Nebraska will beat them.
Well, I think the Colorado State game was the one last year that exposed them.
Yeah.
Like, that was the one that's like, all
Definitely.
right.
Where the guy looked like Jerry Rice playing against him, who had doubled his receiving yards in his career.
Yeah, Travis Hunter gets hurt in that game, and then, the wheels came off. But they still managed to win it in overtime. But that should have been a game a good team wouldn't have beat. Of course, TCU in Colorado last year was kind of smoke and mirrors. She's like, oh, man, they just beat TCU. And then you're like, also not a bowl team. So
no one is, when you kind of look at it, besides Penn State, no one's playing. West Virginia plays Penn State, but is no one else playing a Power 5 or now Power 4 team?
UCF gets Florida.
In the first game,
Oh, the first game, no.
Yeah, sorry. Should have had that caveat. Yeah, nobody's starting out. Everybody's kind of, North Dakota State, of course, but and South Dakota State are both, good D2 programs. Or Division 1, 2A.
TCU at Stanford. That's one.
TCU at Stanford?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a Friday night game.
Okay. Well, everyone should come away, besides West Virginia, I think, 1-0 going into week 2. I just have a bad feeling, just going back to Baylor, I kind of have a bad feeling they could be like 1-4 before the bye.
But we'll see. I mean, this is
me being like negative, real, like let's get real negative. But Tarleton State at Utah, Air Force at home, but they didn't play well at home last year. Mm-hmm. And we all know that Air Force had their number in a weird bowl game, but still.
It was one outside.
Yeah. At Colorado, who could be looking for a bounce back.
I know that the Air Force doesn't have like an infantry on the ground or anything. Like most of their stuff is all technology in there in planes.
Yeah.
But the fact that the Air Force cadets handled 1-degree weather really well and dominated a football team that they should have never dominated made me feel good about the American military that day. I just did.
Well,
yeah.
They're not out in Colorado for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, like they handled that. It was terrible. It was terrible weather for anybody. Like even people who live in that kind of weather. It was terrible. It was bitter cold and windy and awful. And they handled it well. Baylor didn't. And you're like, well, I'm glad that when it comes down to it, the guys who are going to ask to go do something first are the guys who won this game.
They're handling $500,000 machines, or $500 million machines rather.
Made me feel good about what they're doing at the Air Force Academy. I'm just saying, made me feel good about general toughness of our fine troops there, cadets and flyboys at the Air Force Academy. Whatever. I don't know what those guys are going to do, what their specialty is going to be. But look, if they do it in the cold, they're well prepared for it. So
somewhere in Alaska, that'd be great.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, going to Colorado, which is Colorado's first Big 12 game, again.
Yeah.
So they'll have that first
redo.
Yeah, they'll have that first Big 12 game there. It's going to be pretty hyped because that's what they do. And we don't know, but I would say Baylor in the same
1-5. I said 1-4.
In the same stretch as Colorado, Baylor of all the teams in the Big 12. Because we know who Arizona's quarterback's going to be. We know who Arizona State's going to be. We don't know anything about BYU right now. So, they're kind of the...
I guess Gary Bohannon's to lose.
Yeah, Gary Bohannon's to lose. But KJ Jefferson...
The other thing. Big Gary Bohannon coming back to Waco.
KJ Jefferson at UCF, I think, is going to be a thing that's going to work out really well for them. Cincinnati, still, I think, probably in their top-down rebuild. Houston, new coach. Baylor's the team that intersects the most of. They don't have a new coach, but the roster on offense is going to look way different.
Yeah,
way different. Even a little bit on defense, less so on defense, but on offense with a new starting quarterback, new offensive linemen, new receivers. It's going to be
new coach.
New
offensive
scheme.
Coordinator rather.
So. I'm of the belief that this DeQuan Finn, Jake Spavital thing is either going to be
incredible,
spectacular, or it's just going to sputter. It'll look good at times, and it'll just they don't have the rest of the guys to make it work. But look, DeQuan Finn is a proven quarterback. He's put up numbers and stats in the MAC.
I like that get for Baylor. I'm just we're playing big. I mean, he played against Ohio State and stuff like that, and he did well. I'm not trying to discount it, but it's every week now we have to be on top of our game in a new offense.
Yeah.
Which, take it or leave, they're all sort of the same. But
I still wonder.
It's big boy football every week, and so I'm just kind of
yeah.
I'm a little wary.
Yeah. I do wonder about with Caden Salter when we had him on talking about going back to Liberty, if that was also a thing of Liberty's going to give you good money, you're still going to have the same kind of a season. The schedule's cake. If you run in the risk of at the position where people are overdrafted more than any other position, you can really kind of make it look a little softer. Although the people who know. Yeah. But you can make yourself look a lot better if you go back to Liberty as opposed to all right, I'm going to go and play for Hugh Freeze at Auburn. And they're all right, well, you probably put up numbers, but you're not going to have a lot of fourth quarters where you're sitting there like this.
Right. Helmet off.
Yeah. This one right here. This is the most anticipated standing position of any starting quarterback.
Whew. Well, that was tough.
Whoa, man.
You really did it, huh?
Yeah. Sacramento State, huh? Like that's how they are, you know. But yeah, that's that position.
Waxahachie Directional College really almost gave it to us.
Yeah, exactly. That first drive, man, they really had some gumption. So anyway, when we come back, what 3 coaches in the Big 12 would you not want to play in a row? I'm going to pose this question to the two of you. Which 3 coaches would you not want to play in a row because of their style of coaching and the way that after that, you got to think of, you know, I'll give you the example. Florida State and Miami played on Labor Day like 4 years in a row, rotating back and forth, you know, home and home and home. And then eventually they kind of told the ACC, like, hey, we can't play this game, the first one, anymore because it's too brutal. It's too brutal. So, like, put it wherever else you want.
Yeah.
But, like, our season is compromised by the fact that, like, we play this one early on.
Yeah.
And the ACC, like, was like, yeah, it's probably true. You know, nobody else has to, like, you have to, like, they accept the nature of the thing is that, like, that rivalry, it's so intense, like, right off the bat.
Right.
And, you know, like, it's the personal foul capital of the world. So, like, yeah, why don't we, you know, targeting? Yes. Like, that's when they, like, call targeting, and the guy's like, oh, yeah, I did that. I totally targeted.
Meant to do it, actually.
I really did. I've been thinking about targeting since Monday morning, and I finally did it. Let's go.
Yeah.
But when we come back, the 3-game stretch of coaches you do not want to see. This is the triple option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
We are back.
Welcome back. Somebody put "cry little sister" to me. Paxton did. I don't know what that means.
Oklahoma State? Is
I
that
don't know.
what we're talking about?
Yeah, I don't know. But by the way, Texas pushed Houston to the brink last night.
Yeah.
I have a feeling Texas basketball fans are going to have like these highs and ridiculous lows this season. It seems to be what the team is. It's like, you know, you beat Baylor, you went like, then they won again like right after that. It looks like they're on a streak. Then they get like really walloped by BYU on the road. And then like they come back from that and they push Houston to the brink. But then Houston's just like, oh no,
Granted,
we're Houston.
loves being pushed to the brink.
Yeah.
It's like every game for them.
Yeah.
They were just like, oh no, like we're ready for the Big 12. Oh no.
Yeah.
Oh no, is this like this every day?
Yeah. Calvin Sampson, like, just took his time and was like, okay, I'm going to make sure I have a total Big 12 ready team. And, you know, they're probably
great. Yeah.
Yeah, they're great. They're probably going to lose 4 or 5 more times, but they're like, I can tell you this Houston team, like, every other team in the league has a propensity to be blown out at any time. I don't think you're blowing out Houston.
No, it's going to be
Like,
a 5-point game. Like,
yeah.
It will always be a 5-point game.
Yeah, you might be up
you
by.
You cannot get up 10.
You might be up by 8 late. You know, they
Yeah.
foul you. They get they'll get a 3. They'll make it really interesting where it's like just enough time. If you like, you know, if they got a 3 and then stole the inbound, they could win the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like all those things. That's how they're going to play because they're just so good. But okay, which 3 coaches do you not want to play in a row? We'll start with Garrett. Which 3 in the Big 12 do you not want to play in a row?
No particular order. I would say Kyle Whittingham, just because that physicality they bring at Utah.
Yeah.
Chris Kleiman because of the same thing. And Gus Malzahn because you give him that offensive mind time to work with. I don't want to see those 3 in a row.
After you've been beat up for 2 weeks in a row, and then all of
Yeah.
a sudden Gus Malzahn's throwing bombs on you, you're like, dude, we can't
Yeah.
catch a break. Around that same thing, I said Leipold. I was going to sandwich Kleiman between Leipold and Gundy.
Okay.
And I think that Leipold has done a really good job of just like really, well, one, making his talent play up to the competition. And they've gotten better talent in there recently. But it just feels like now you can't go into Kansas, or Kansas will come to you and they're just ready to play every single time. And if they catch you on the wrong day, I mean, what, they win 9 games last year, or 8?
9.
9, yeah. So, I mean, like, one of the best seasons in Kansas in recent memory. And so it's just, I don't know. I think they have enough weapons to really catch you off guard. And also, those guys run around and hit you too.
Yeah.
But the same thing with Kleiman in that, like, we're just going to have a rock fight this entire game.
Yeah.
Like, also, their offense, like, is really, really, really good and is now more sort of like a wide zone spread offense than previous years.
Yeah.
And that combined with the defense that's just going to punch you in the mouth every single time. And the same thing for Gundy, who all of a sudden, I mean, Whittingham's great. Malzahn has had a ton of success, obviously, in previous stops. But Gundy all of a sudden is the elder statesman.
Yeah.
And I think if you play Gundy at the very back end of like really complicated games, he's going to embarrass you. And we kind of saw that last year when they were getting embarrassed early on in the season. Then he made some adjustments, and it was like they were beating the crap out of people.
Yeah.
So I kind of I think I want to go that direction. Not putting Whittingham in is tough. Also, not putting, like I was going to say, Sataki in there.
Yeah.
Because they will also beat the mess
Yeah.
out of you. Like I kind of have to lean towards Gundy.
All right, Bracket Cat on the chat says Kleiman, Leipold, Campbell. I mean, they're on everyone's short list for hiring, right? Paxton says Kleiman, Gundy, Malzahn. Let's see, anybody else? All right, I don't see anybody. If you said one earlier, just throw it out there again, and I'll get to it on the chat. But those are good ones. Our Webb, Leipold, Kleiman, Whittingham in a row would be brutal for a physical trio. I'm going to say Campbell, Whittingham, Kleiman would be my 3, where you're just not going to get a break of getting, punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth and punched in the mouth. Like defensively, especially they're just so consistent and so especially, and if you wind up like playing 2 of those 3 on the road at any point, like it's going to be even worse. So
like Utah wasn't even like, well, obviously they're highly ranked, but they didn't have a quarterback half the year, and yet they still were winning games simply by just like punching people in the teeth. And it was ugly all season, but yet they still won 9 games or 10 games. I can't remember how many they won.
Scotty B says Gundy, Whittingham, and Kleiman. Yeah, see, Gundy, like people can start leaving Gundy out of things
He's all of a sudden probably the best coach in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean
I don't trust him.
Yeah.
I will never trust him until he can actually win in the postseason consistently. He is, to
That's
me,
fair.
fool's gold.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean that like it's all very like, but this is a conference now that like I don't see like honestly, and I know that Cincinnati still has to prove it, but try to tell me who the weak link is coaching right now.
Well, that's what I was going to say, because if we weren't, I took that question as like this next year. But if we were looking going forward in a couple of seasons, I think Willie Fritz could honestly, his track record at Houston, if you can get the local talent to stay there, could definitely make a case, man.
Yeah. Unbelievable hire.
You missed him. I was here with you. Were here for Willie Fritz. Yeah, he was on the show the other day. Love Willie Fritz. I mean, he's a great guest. He was really awesome on the show. But look, Dillingham has to prove it, and Satterfield has to prove it.
Definitely both of them.
Brendan has to prove it a little bit, but he's won other places.
Deion's got to prove it.
Deion's got to prove it. But
I mean, he's like they had a better season, but is like Neil Brown the coaching weekly?
No, I don't think so. I think Neil Brown showed what he can do, but Deion's got to prove it a little bit. But also, I don't want to deal. Here's the thing: going and playing Deion right now, I don't want to deal with it. It's a lot.
It's a whole other thing.
If I could avoid it altogether, not because I'm scared of Shadur or Travis Hunter or anything else, player for player, I want you, but the circus that comes with it, which is part of the strength that Deion has right now, in that like he can get in your head probably better than anybody.
You are now playing Deion.
Yeah, you're like, it's this whole thing, and that's what, look, Nick Saban had that too. Yep. Like, now he had it built over years of being the most dominant and unbelievable thing, but you were, like, you could look at the players and they're almost faceless. Like, you know, Julio Jones, Devontae Smith, like all these guys, like I know all these guys are fantastic. Like no matter what year I'm playing them, but I'm playing this guy right here.
You want to beat Saban.
Yeah, I'm looking at this guy. Like none of this matters. And Deion, even though he hasn't won yet, especially if he starts winning, he's going to have that because the circus will follow. And here's the thing about Deion's circus. He completely controls all of it.
Yeah.
Like he is in control of it in a way that's so like, I keep thinking about if you can intersect that with winning, that is going to be really hard for anybody in the country. Like anybody in the country, he gets that team to play off good, he is going to get in some people's heads.
There's very few things that you can replicate, and one of them is hype.
Yeah.
And you can't manufacture hype. You can't manufacture excitement.
Yeah.
He just has it.
Yeah.
He's had it since he was at Florida State.
Yeah. I mean, the dude, like in a celebrity-obsessed culture, he's
a celebrity.
He's the only actual celebrity coach.
Right.
Like even Nick Saban's not a celebrity coach. He's a coach. Like that's
who happens to be popular.
Who happens to be popular, but known.
Yeah.
But like, you know, like if Kirby Smart is out in an airport somewhere, like which he doesn't have to do anymore because he just has
flies
jet.
private.
But like if you were sitting next to, we would recognize Kirby Smart in the airport and be like, oh, there's Kirby Smart. But like Deion Sanders.
I couldn't pick Ryan Day out of a lineup.
Yeah. Like you would, oh, is that Ryan Day? Oh, weird. I wonder what he's doing here.
Yeah.
You know, like that's what you would think.
Funny story. This has to completely do with this, actually. We were in California just going on a senior trip, and my dad really wanted to go see Pebble Beach. Mm-hmm. He just really wanted, that's the one in like Northern California, correct? Somebody's gonna be screaming at me, but I think it was
Pebble Beach. I think
Torrey
it's the
Pines
same.
is right above San Diego.
Yeah.
I think it was Pebble Beach in Northern California, close to Carmel.
Yeah.
So we were at Pebble Beach. He just wanted to show us the golf club, and I wanted to see it too. Beautiful golf course, whatever. And all of a sudden, we see big money cars coming like rolling up and trying to pick people up. Regardless, this guy in all TCU gear walks out. Short little man, really kind of stacked a little bit, and he's wearing all TCU gear. My dad walks up we're walking past him, we're walking past each other, and he goes, TCU, you from Texas? The guy goes, yeah. What do you do there? He goes, I'm a football coach.
Was it Gary Patterson?
It was Gary Patterson. We didn't know it was Gary Patterson. We've just been playing him, like, as Baylor fans, been playing him in football for like 5 years now. And we're just like, oh, shit. Oh. It's Gary Patterson. What's up, man?
Yeah.
It's just
Look, Garrett and I are about to go to the Super Bowl and Radio Row. Because football is this way, and it's kind of like coaches, he needs to be in, like, for P, you need to be in the uniform, the visor.
Yeah. Yes.
He needs to have a girl running behind him with a towel, like all that. And you're like, oh, like if there was
What's
a towel.
funny is he was wearing a TCU visor. We just didn't like.
Yeah. If there would have been a girl with a towel, you'd be like, "This totally goes to Gary Patterson." Yeah. Like you would have been like, "Oh yeah,
that's it.
That's Gary Patterson." So you'll see people on Radio Row, and you're like, "Oh, who is that?" And you know it. Like we know. Like I'll tell you everything you want to know about this guy, but because most of the time I see him, he's wearing a helmet. I'm like, I've got to I do this thing where I imagine a helmet on his head, and then I try to make the logo like, okay. Julio Jones. Like the second time I've mentioned it, but like that's how it is. It's like
had a guy, I forget what his name was. He was a Pro Bowl safety for the Giants. We were going to Port Arthur to West Orange Stark to interview for Earl Thomas's football camp that he was running.
Was it Aaron Ross?
No, he played for the New York Giants, and I can't remember his name, and I'm gonna be blanking on it, and my friends are gonna laugh at me because he was there, and I'll send him this clip. But we went up there, and athletic looking guy, really stacked, and I was trying to find professional football players. Like I had already interviewed Earl Thomas and a couple other people that I had recognized that I'd interviewed before, and I was like, "Are you a football player?" Which is what you don't want to ask somebody. I was like 22, and he was like, "No." I'm like, oh, my bad. He's like, yes, dude, I play for the Giants. Come here. I was like, oh, okay, then my bad.
Yeah. That reminds me of my favorite all-time scene from a Modern Family episode was when they went to the basketball, like went to a Lakers game.
Yeah.
And Phil yells out, he's like, Kobe, Kobe, Kobe. And Kobe's like, yeah. And he goes, do you like being a basketball player?
It really felt like the
Kobe's like, that's all you got?
It really felt like the Michael Jordan like Bulls bit is like, you remember when you made that shot?
Yeah, exactly.
That was awesome.
Yeah. All right, when we come back, Super Bowl from Royden's perspective, I'm curious if he's going to buy any Brock Purdy hype.
Oh.
If he thinks Brock Purdy can slay the beast that is Patrick Mahomes.
Yay, the best. We're living in a great timeline, folks. Really love where we're at.
This is 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've probably been feeling the slowdown. And that's no good for business. A private UPN fiber network can get you and your business moving at the speed of light. Whatever you need, we can build it. Internet, Metro Ethernet, Waves, dark fiber. We deliver custom private networks and are focused on business customers only. Our next generation 100% fiber optic infrastructure offers you low latency and ultra scalable bandwidth with speeds up to 100 gigabit to run your critical applications. Your connection won't be limiting your performance anymore. It's diverse and scalable, so it can grow and change as your business grows and changes. And with a secure carrier-grade private network, you'll have all the reliability you need. Contact UPN today to learn more. Fast just got faster.
This is 365 Sports, powered by Sikkim365.com. Welcome to the Triple Option. Here's your host, Paul Catalina.
By the way, that player was Landon Collins.
Yeah, no, you looked it up. I didn't.
Is absolutely shredded.
Yeah, if you look up Landon Collins, you'll know, like, how did you not know he was a football player?
Yeah.
But I'm just kind of like, I don't know. But the fact that he just looked at me with a dead face and said, no, I'm not. I'm like, great.
Yeah.
This is weird.
Yeah, another Sabanite right there, Landon Collins.
Yeah.
Speaking
of.
Like, you're going to look at that guy and be like, oh, he knows every kind of protein there is. Mm-hmm. Like, you could give him like a blind taste test. He'd be like, egg white, whey, low cal. Done. Like, even with the flavorless, just like, that's
this one's pre-workout.
Yeah, I know it. Boom. You're not going to get me right here. All right. Your thoughts, Royden, on the Super Bowl. We've got the 49ers who have, I believe, if you went 1 to 53 on the roster, the 49ers have a better 1 to 53.
Yeah.
I think that's like clear. But the thing is, when you go 1 to 53, and let's just say 1 is the quarterback on each team, 1 on the Chiefs
is one with 1A,
yes,
B, C, D, E.
He's Thanos. I mean, he's just inevitable. He's there. Like, and like very much like it, it's like he snaps his fingers and everything goes all right. Oh, nobody's catching passes, like playoffs.
Yeah. Look, here's my thought. Obviously, San Francisco, besides Baltimore, who I think had probably the best roster. I mean, San Francisco has, if not the best roster, the second best roster in all of football.
Yeah.
I attribute a lot of that to Brock Purdy's success.
Yeah.
People will disagree. Neither here nor there. He played well down the stretch to get them into the Super Bowl. Like, he was making plays. I can't really argue with it.
He played great.
Yeah, he was like, he turned into like prime Michael Vick all of a sudden, and it's just like, what is happening?
Yeah.
So I can't explain. There's some things you can explain away with Brock Purdy, and there's other things you just had to be like,
Yeah.
Like, because we watched him at Iowa State throw egregious interceptions.
Yeah.
Like, when they needed really big plays. He also made really big plays at Iowa State and was probably their best quarterback in their history.
J.J. Joe used to call them Purdy plays.
Yeah.
Where they were just, he was, especially that last year where
talent kind of went away.
His junior year, they had gotten to the title game. They were a really, really good team. They had lost, and Breece Hall's gone. Like that, like it was different, or I guess, like it was like that little transition of it. And then you're like, okay, well, his senior year, he just pressed so hard because you could tell he was like, I know that I can get back there. I know that we can get back there.
Yeah.
And then by the middle of the season, it was like, well, they're not getting back there.
And he's throwing like jump balls and stuff, which, by the way, he still kind of makes YOLO plays.
Yeah.
I have a friend, Dex, we talked to, calls him YOLO Purdy. He said it's hilarious. Mm-hmm. And he still makes those plays. For some reason or another, teams just can't intercept his passes.
Well, I'll tell you one of the reasons why. Or four of the reasons why. It's McCaffrey, Samuel, Ayuk, and Kittle.
Yeah, they're making plays around the ball.
You can go, you can be, 2 degrees off center with guys like that. And then instead of it getting intercepted, Deebo Samuel just goes, oh, oops.
He also, in some of these playoff games, has hit dudes right in the chest and they've bricked it. But that's neither here. He made plays down the stretch. He was incredible. They deserve to be in the Super Bowl. The Lions' all-time fumble, as a Texans fan who saw the Chiefs do the same thing to them in 2019. I feel your pain. I'm right there. The meetings are on Tuesdays. And it brings cigarettes. And I think that because of their roster is so awesome, obviously they kind of felt inevitable all year. The Kansas City Chiefs are a completely different story because, not for nothing, they were just not good this year.
Yeah.
And that's relative.
They were sloppy. They were, all these things that the Chiefs were before.
Right.
It was the reason that the Chiefs were so great, last year, was they did all the little things well. And then you throw onto that this is a really disciplined team that does all the little things well. And then you throw Patrick Mahomes on the top of that, and it's just and Travis Kelce hadn't regressed to the mean like he kind of did a little bit this year. He was hurt. Yeah. But then, I don't think Juju Smith-Schuster is an all-world receiver, but he can at least catch passes. Well, yeah, and so you had all these things that they weren't doing. They weren't dropping, 5-6 balls a game.
Kadarius Toney single-handedly lost them 2 or 3 games this year.
Yes, yeah, and so you have Kadarius Toney who's there and now has to have this bigger role because they've reshuffled the deck at wide receiver, and so much so that they went and traded for McCole Hardman back, and he hadn't been that good since he got back either.
Sky Moore hasn't panned out. Luckily Rashee Rice, it looks to be really good, and I expect him to be the number 1 receiver for them going forward. It just is they were just sloppy and had to win games 21-20 all year.
Yeah.
If you scored 21 points, I think the record for the Chiefs, if you scored 21 points on the Chiefs this year, they lost.
Yeah.
That's tough.
Yeah.
And then granted, look, they did what they needed to do in the first half of that game, and Steve Spagnuolo is incredible defensive coordinator, really unheralded, I think, too.
Yeah.
Holding Lamar to what they did.
And look, they made 2 huge plays in the end zone.
Exactly. And they made plays when they needed to. But that offense wasn't good down the stretch either. Granted, Ravens defense, probably 1B or 1A in the NFL as far as defensive units go. But they punted 5 straight times. It's not It's not like the Kansas City Chiefs were world beaters all of a sudden again, but there is an inevitability now to Patrick Mahomes, which I still haven't accepted at this point.
Well, yeah,
it's tough because he's 28, so you're just wait, is this the second best quarterback that's ever played football?
Yeah.
Third, maybe, behind Joe Montana?
Yeah, he's showing things that just keep going and going, getting better. And so, I think he's the guy who's going to redefine the position for this generation.
Right.
And look, you've already started to see it. The guy, stylistically with guys who play, and I'll start at the top of this draft and go down with guys who play like Patrick Mahomes does. Caleb Williams does. Jalen Daniels does. Mm-hmm. Jordan Travis does. Where do you think they got that from?
Yeah.
Who are they watching that was doing this? It's Patrick Mahomes. Knowing that you can do these things, and offenses were built around quarterbacks now, where it used to be hey, we want you here. This is where you need to be. As long as you're here in this spot, things will be great. And now offenses are look, we're going to create things where you be anywhere.
It's the Steph Curry effect.
Yeah, the Steph Curry. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah, Steph Curry in 1995 would have been like, hey, this is guy's a good little shooter. We're gonna pop off to him. Yeah, we're put him on the wing. We're gonna let him do these things. And then it changed, and then like, oh no. Like, it's like when you
three
put
is worth more than two.
3 is worth more than 2. It's like when you do a lot of those, teams can't catch up to you.
Yeah.
Like when you have a guy who doesn't miss, who like on his off days is like, all right, well, before I go and do the fun thing today, I'm going to shoot 7,000 shots. Mm-hmm. And then once those 7,000 are done, I'm going to watch the tape of the ones I missed and go over what I was doing wrong. I saw him on Hot Ones one time, Steph Curry. He was on Hot Ones.
Yeah, it was a great episode.
It was a great episode of Hot Ones. And the way he was describing, like, you know, other people's shots, you're like, oh my God, you're a nerd. Like, you're watching, like, you know, I'm watching this guy shot and be like, oh, he's great. He does this and this. And you're like, man, yeah.
There's a little bit of psychosis that comes with being, and nobody likes to talk about it, but like there's a little bit of weird psychosis when it comes to being the best.
Yeah.
Like you like strive to be the best. Like Michael Jordan, psychopath. Like you don't really like,
Hey.
I don't think Steph Curry's a psycho, but like they're very specifically honed in on one thing, and that's being the greatest athlete.
I thought people talk about this with Mahomes, though, a lot, in that, look, he's been working with Bobby Stroup, who, like, they've developed. Bobby Stroup was a baseball trainer forever. Yeah. But Bobby Stroup now has all these football players because they're developing all these new techniques on, you know, training and doing this and building up your
core strength.
All these different things that nobody else was really doing.
Well, he tweeted about it, too, like a video of him, like, rolling around with chains or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that was him.
All these different things that are, like, playing into what the strength is and what football is now, especially since the rules are such that, like, if you look at the quarterback with mean intent, you know, you're like, oh, well, that's 15. So they have much more freedom to do things. So guys like Patrick Mahomes can do those things now.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, like I'm not saying he wouldn't have been great, but like, again, if you put him, you know, in 1988 against Lawrence Taylor rolling out of the pocket, Lawrence Taylor's going to be like, what, really?
I mean, when you could blast the quarterback late.
Yeah.
And just like knock people out of games.
Yeah.
You know, or if they didn't get knocked out of games, you're like, oh, I better get rid of the ball a lot faster. Like, mess up timing more.
Yeah.
Like his whole thing, we see all the off structure stuff, but like that offense, like most offenses, but especially in the Andy Reid offense, is all about timing. It's all about getting, you know, a lot of times now because of people, you know, they can't really rely on the deep pass in this offense. Like, getting the ball out to his wide receiver, getting the ball out to Travis Kelce and letting him make a play. But I don't know what he would be in, you know, is he Steve Young, you know, back in the day? Like, what is he? Yeah. I don't know. I mean, we saw Michael Vick revolutionize the game, but, you know, before him, it's like Fran Tarkington or whatever.
Yeah.
So there are players beget players, but it is unlike anything that I think we have seen, obviously, that is this successful consistently. Brady, arguably the best coach that ever has coached. You know, what is it?
Here's the thing I think.
Is it the structure or is it?
I think it's impressive about Brady is he started out as like year one as a game manager because that's all they wanted to do. He's a young quarterback. Like, let's make sure that we don't put too much on this guy's plate. And then as he figured out more and more could be put on his plate, he just got better and better and better and better at those things until he was just the best. You know,
a lot of things in the NFL, and you know, we always like to call people busts or whatever. A lot of things, it's just nature and nurture.
Where you wind up.
If I kind of have had this take around that, like if Mahomes, because we also saw him go like 7, they didn't have a defense at Texas Tech, whatever. Like if Mahomes was with anyone,
one bowl game.
Yeah, if Mahomes was with anyone except Andy Reid, like what would that be?
Oh yeah, well,
I mean, maybe
what if
he would have been
Hugh
great.
Jackson was Mahomes' coach?
Yeah,
I mean, like, okay, yeah, I mean, those things, like, it all worked out for everybody. He would be like, again, you know. I think what you would see.
Maybe he's just so outstanding that he wouldn't allow something to be as bad. But his offensive play style fit exactly with what Andy Reid was wanting to do.
The most physically gifted passer in the NFL is probably Jameis Winston. Like, as far as, like,
arm talent,
arm strength and what he can do. But he's now a backup and a bust as a first-round pick. Because he wasn't with the right people early in his career. Like, nobody can, and part of it's probably him. Nobody can coach the interceptions out of him.
He also didn't have contacts or LASIK.
Yeah, I mean, like all these, those things. Yeah, that's a pretty big deal. Like,
I can't see YOLO.
Yeah, dude won a Heisman Trophy with 20/40 vision. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
So if he can do that, but like again, it's not. Look, you're a Texans fan.
Yeah.
How good do you think David Carr would have been had that franchise not been a mess when he got there?
A lot of people say the same thing too. I mean,
Because
there's a lot of
his physical talent.
Yeah, his arm strength and all that stuff too. It's just like his brother did a lot better in the NFL simply because that organization was in a better place to succeed at the time.
It was the Raiders too.
Yeah, which is crazy.
That's saying a lot. Like this, so it's all about, everything where you wind up, right? Like what good things you do, like who is there to like nurture your talents.
Mm-hmm.
And Patrick Mahomes wound up in the perfect situation. And
we're not taking away that he is brilliant,
he's
but
brilliant,
it's
but
just incredible that you can have a down year like that and still make it to the
there's
Super Bowl.
wasted brilliance all over sports.
Right.
They're like, how many teams are going to sign, a left-hander that can throw 97, to 100 because he's that, but he's not ever been with the right pitching coach and may never be with the right pitching coach.
Right.
Like he just may not be the guy who can find him. Or how many years where like a guy has a career year because he was with this particular coach and then that guy goes somewhere else and you just never can get it back again.
Right. I mean, it's the same as like, did Pop make Tim Duncan or did Tim Duncan make Popovich? I think Tim Duncan made Popovich. But a lot of other players succeeded in that system. Ginobili, he was awesome, but were Hall of Famers because they were in that system.
Yeah.
Playing around those guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Pop was the guy who made it all work, and he's just not had that. You're not going to just get Tim Duncan again.
Right. It's like Andy Reid without
Except
Mahomes.
now that they maybe have, and it's probably too late for him.
Right.
Like it's one of those things.
It's tough basketball to watch, man.
They have, and most people would say the Spurs have a roster that you can win more than they're winning with.
Right.
And maybe it's just one of those things that next year, anyway, we'll see. But yes, it is. It is, especially for a Spurs
all that being
fan.
said, I'm not betting against the Kansas City Chiefs.
No, I'm not either.
Sorry to San Francisco.
Well, just a little scheduling update. Royden, I will not see you for a couple weeks because we're going to Vegas.
What?
Yeah. So we are going to do in Vegas, and this was determined yesterday, Garrett, while you were out. We're going to do every interview that Smokey has no interest in doing is going to be the triple option.
I think that'll be perfect.
So we will throw it up as the
You
triple
cannot
option.
replace me with people from the Jersey Shore.
Okay. Well, I told you I'm the only one who turned down the situation. I'm the only one who did it. They came to me in Dallas and do you want the situation? And I was like, who is that?
Yeah.
I did not know because I was not watching that. And they're like, from Jersey Shore. I'm like, oh, I've heard of that show. And then I started watching clips of it, and I'm like, oh.
No, thank you.
I think I'm good. And I said no because I really don't know what to say to him. If I don't know, dear God, Smokey's not going to
So you like working out, huh?
Yeah, so you're Italian. So am I. You're a lot shinier than I am. So is that like a cream or something you use? I don't know. All right. Yeah, I honestly.
All that tanning can't be good.
I
for
did
you,
not
right?
know enough about them until Bill Hader and Bobby Moynihan started doing them on SNL.
Doing a bit about it.
Yeah, and so they started doing a weekend update a bit about it. Then I kind of got to know a little bit more who they were in the zeitgeist. But anyway, that's gonna do it for us. Royden, I'll see you in a couple weeks.
Sure.
All
Whatever.
right. All right. Well, Garrett and I will be in Vegas working.
Yeah, sure.
That's what we're gonna do. We're gonna work
really hard work.
when other people are playing, we're gonna work.
Mm-hmm. You know it.
We're gonna work.
Are you staying at the Luxor?
No, we're not. We're staying in
Thank
Airbnb.
God.
No.
In the giant Dorito? No, we're not doing that. No. Oof. All right. Tomorrow we'll see Steven Simcox, and then it's going to be no show on Thursday because I will be on my way to Kansas City, going to Lawrence this weekend for Kansas versus Houston. So
nice.
That is next week. This is the Triple Option on 365 Sports.
If your business is like most, you need things done quickly. But if you're still tying your critical applications together on multiple shared public networks, you've